Okay, hi. We're going to see if we can build the back wheel of the NXT base model robot. So here you see these four pins sticking out there from the base model, and our back wheel, when constructed, will snap on like that. Good maneuverability, and you get a nice vehicle out of that. So let's take this off and let's see how that's done. Sometimes the part will pop off, and they are a little stubborn to get out. But this goes on that guy. And this is what we're trying to build. So the back wheel basically consists of two parts. There's the wheel, and then there's what I call the linkage. It's probably not the right term, but this is what we use to connect the wheel to the robot. And so there's the 7-hole beam, 7M beam. That's part of it. And I'm going to take this apart. There's a bushing on top there that holds this all together. So there you see the top part that came right off that axle. And there's the bottom part, the wheel part. So you can kind of see the different viewpoints of it. The axle, this is a number 6 axle. It also has a half bushing. That's important because it keeps the two from rubbing against each other and bumping in. So those small little details make a difference, and we've had all those types of mistakes. So we have a 2x4 angle beam on either side. We have the wheel. We have a number 4 axle there. This, we'll take this off. Here's the other angle beam there. And then we have what I call the spine and the vertebrae here. So we have these two sub-assemblies. They're identical, so we're going to have to build both of those. This is the number 6 axle. And this little vertebrae, only thing to keep in mind here is the smooth side of the cross block is around the axle, so it's free to move, and that is going to help it. And if you don't do it that way, it won't come out quite right. So there's two of those, and they are identical. So we got them all disassembled there. And then, so we have the top portion here, which has, well, let's see the structure. You see you have 3 double crosses there. This is an extended cross block. You have a short axle there with a bushing. This is a number 5 beam, and this is the number 7 beam going across here. Alright, so let's see how this is in disassembly. This is a little stubborn. Notice the extended blocks again are on the smooth side. Look at the impression I made in finger there. Okay, so that's the number 3 beam. Now you can see the two extended cross blocks are wobbling on there. This is the number 5 beam. There's 2 pins on either end of this. So we're going to take the pins out, and you see the 5 holes in that beam. Now we're down to what is more of the core structure of this, and there's 2 number 5 axles here, and that's what these double cross blocks are on. And then you can see how there's no resistance for these what's called an extended cross block. And then again we have the double cross block. The number 7 axle is there, and then we have the number 7 beam, and then we have the number 5 axle, the number 5 axle, and the double cross there. You can see that a 5 axle is the same length as a 5 beam, and the numbers correspond to how many of the holes are in those items. So there's basically all the parts you need to build this wheel. You saw it disassembled, and now we're just going to reassemble it. So I'm going to start off with the wheel part with my angle beam and a number 4 axle, and I do put it into the notched end right there. And I'm then going to slide my wheel on there, and it's not held on, so I'm just going to set it to the side. And then I have to build my two, what I called vertebrae the last time when I was taking it apart. So those are the cross blocks sandwiched in between two what are called half bushings. Those yellow guys are called half bushings. And again, the cross block is on the smooth side as opposed to the notch side, which is not on that axle. Okay, so those are my two vertebrae, and if you want to think of it this way, we can put them onto my spine, which is the number 6 axle. Okay, so that makes a nice little structure there. And then we can take this wheel, and we want to have the bushing that's projecting out to be close to the wheel. It seems a little bit like, well, that might touch, but it doesn't, and that's the correct way to do this. And then we just complete it by putting this on. That sequence is a little bit different than you might see in the book. It does the job, and that's what it is to look like when it's completed. Okay, the wheel's going to rotate pretty freely. If it's a little tight, you can separate this, not a lot, but a little separation there will have the wheel spinning freely. So that's the wheel assembly. Now we're going to build the top part of the linkage, and we're going to use these number 5 axles into a double cross block, and then we're just going to basically thread these things on. So that's the number 7 beam. That's ultimately what we will attach to the robot. Now we put another double cross block, and that holds that really nice and tight. And then we use our extended blocks, and again we're using the smooth hole as opposed to the notch. The notch is not around the axle, and we do of course the same thing with both sides. So those are free to pivot and move. And then we're going to finish that off with a third double cross. So now we have a structure that's starting to take shape there. It feels pretty strong. Now we're going to put the number 5 beam across this way with held in place by 2 pins. So we're going to put 1 pin in that end and 1 pin in this end. So now you see we have the 2 pins in place there, and the number 5 is going to go right on top of those 2 pins. So that gives you a lot of stability in this direction. And now we're going to put the axle through and join the extended cross blocks. The only slight trick there is we're going to put a bushing in between so that it fills in that gap. So now there's the top. You see you have the 3 double crosses, you have the 7 beam, you have your extended cross blocks, you have your number 5 beam with the 2 pins holding it, and you have the number 3 axle with the bushing in place. So that's what that is. We're going to put the shaft of the wheel housing right into the center there, and it's very smooth. And I left out something, so don't leave this out. This is the half bushing that goes on top of the wheel. That creates a separation so that we don't have any rubbing or binding. Then we will put the top bushing on place, and that holds it all together. We could snug it all the way down, but we might bind it a little bit, so we like to leave a little gap. It's correctly built, that'll spin freely, and the wheel will spin freely. If the wheel is binding, it's not really going to hold the robot back, but you could just give it a little gap, a little separation. Now to attach this, we're going to bring the robot over. So we're going to bring the robot over, and the base of the robot is actually built, you know, these were built in mind to snap together. So it goes just like so, those 4, and that's a very sturdy connection. And so that is a nice look there. Notice the wheel can move freely. The wheel has to pivot. If the wheel is bumping into this axle, then you may have put that beam may have been put on incorrectly. There you see it from the side. It's able to pivot nicely. from this view, and there you see the motors, and there's the wheel. So it's definitely, and the way it's designed, it will always straighten out no matter how the robot is trying to move. Hello, robot. It will always pivot around nicely, so it gives good mobility. It works quite well.